Today I'm doing the Buzzfeed Unsolved book tag. The tag itself is from the YA room. I was tagged by Dane over at Dane Reads, and I'll leave a link to both videos in the description down below. Now, this tag is based off of a TV show series called the Buzzfeed Unsolved something, which I've actually never heard of and never watched, but I like a good tag. So when Dane tagged me on this, I thought I would have a go at the questions anyways, even though I have no idea what the BuzzFeed Unsolved is referring to. Hopefully that's not a booktube faux pas to do a tag based on a theme that you're unfamiliar with. But I think I can still have a go at answering these questions. So question 1 is a book you don't think is deserving of its hype. Now, I mention these with caution because they are books that are very much beloved by some people, but A Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, I did not think it was that great. I know I didn't really feel it was saying anything useful or intelligent. And the other one is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Ingle, which I don't know, maybe it's just me. I couldn't really understand why everybody really loved that book. Sorry. Question 2 is BOOGARA, a book that chilled you to the core. So I had a bit of a difficult time with this one. I think maybe it's because I haven't read enough horror books. And maybe it's because I didn't read enough horror when I was younger, because I think the stuff that really chills you to the core happens when you are young. When you get old, you get a little bit jaded and it gets a little bit harder to chill you. There were Stephen King books in which certain scenes I found quite chilling. You know, certain like gruesome scenes where he was describing all the gore, and I could vividly imagine it and thought, oh boy, this is really quite horrifying. But I'm not sure any of his books really chilled me, although I've not read widely with Stephen King. I think I've only read like 3 of his books. So the best I think I can do with this one is remembering a book that I found quite eerie when I read it when I was young, and came back to it a few years ago and found it still kind of quite delightfully eerie. And that is The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. Now, it's one of those books that to say too much of it would spoil it. But there is an eerie mystery that gets set up at the beginning. And as you find out more about it, you find out that this future world has some horrors to it that I found quite eerie, chilling, if you will. All right, question 3, SHITFISH, a book you're not sure where you stand on. So that is a book I read earlier this year, which is Dune by Frank Herbert. So there are a lot of people who really like this book and a lot of people who do not like this book. And I watched videos from both camps and I read it, and I just really had a hard time picking a side. I could say, I can see why some people really like it. I can see why some people don't like it. I think in my review of this, if I remember correctly, I just basically talked about the things that were in the book and then outsourced all the questions. Like, well, what do you think about this? Leave a comment and let me know what you think about this, because I wasn't quite sure what to make of any of it. And probably not going to make my career as a book critic, but for a casual reader, I decided that was fair enough on the first reading. There was just so many themes in here that on a first reading, it's just really hard to say whether it's well done or not. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure where I stand on Dune. All right, question 4, a book that kept you up at night. So, I'm not sure if this is the intended meaning of the question, but a book that definitely kept me up at night is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, because I had a book report due on it and I hadn't finished it. And I was in high school at the time and didn't really have appreciation for how long it would take me to read a book. I thought, okay, I'll read the thing tonight and then just dash out the report. And, like, I knew that normally it takes me a long time to read a book, but I thought, well, normally I'm not really focused. If I can just focus, I bet I can get it done in 2 or 3 hours and then write the report. And then, yeah, I was up most of the night reading the book. Confession time, I actually just skimmed through the last few chapters. I think it's enough time has gone by now that it's fair to say that the statute of limitations is probably passed on that book report. And to this day, keep meaning to come back to it because I don't feel like I really read that book properly. But yeah, it definitely kept me up that night. All right, question 5. Sorry. A book that made you laugh out loud. So, The Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid by Bill Bryson. This one had me chuckling quite a few times while I was reading it out loud. Question 6. A hyped fave. So I think what this question is asking is a book that was hyped up as being really great, and then you read it and you thought it was totally worth the hype. For me, that's The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. It's touted as one of the great adventure stories of all time, and then when you read it, it really is one of the great adventure stories of all time. It's refreshing how modern it feels to read it. It does not feel like an old classic. It just reads like a book that is a lot of fun. Question 7. A book you'd protect with your life. So I was looking back over my reading list from the past few years, and I don't know. I think War and Peace stands out to me as in a hypothetical where I think the hypothetical here is if you either sacrifice your life or this book gets erased from existence. Like there's no copies left anywhere. Future generations never get to read it. And I don't know. Dane said in his video that no book is worth protecting with your life. But this strikes me as a book that has enough in it, and I think is insightful enough on human nature that I think it would be a pity to lose this book. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. But if it's a question of this book being erased from existence or me sacrificing my life, I'd like to think I'd make the right decision. All right, question 8. A book you're too scared to read. So Dane over at Dane Reads said there's no book that he's too scared to read. He is a much better man than me because I can think of 2 books that I am terrified to read. One is Ulysses by James Joyce, and not to mention Finnegan's Wake, also by James Joyce. Both of these books are infamous for being incomprehensible. I think especially Finnegan's Wake, but Ulysses is the book that all well-read people should aspire to get through at one point. And I've just heard so many stories about how difficult it was to read that I'm a bit nervous about it. And the other, if I can double up on this one, especially since Dane didn't give an answer, I think I can easily give 2. In Search of Lost Time by Proust. What was Proust's first name again? This is a French book. It's 7 volumes long, some 4,500 pages or something like that. Again, one of these books that every well-read person is supposed to read, but just infamous for going on and on and on. And I don't mind telling you, I am intimidated by that book. Laugh at me if you want, but I am scared of a book like that. All right, question 9. A book you didn't want to end. So this is going back a little bit, but I think most of us on BookTube, when we're reading a book, there's a sense of accomplishment for finishing a book. So, like, we want to get to the end, we want to check that off our reading list, we want to have, 100 books read by the middle of the year, or whatever our reading goals are. And I am as much a victim of that mindset as anyone else. I want to accomplish a lot of reading goals, but there is certainly one book that I remember where I was enjoying it so much I really did not want it to end. And this is going all the way back to when I was in 6th grade and was reading Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, which I am way overdue for a reread on. And, maybe within the next year, I'll try and track down a copy and do a reread on this channel. Because it would be interesting to see how it holds up now. I've revisited it a couple times as an audiobook, but I've not reread it as a physical book. But I remember at the time, I actually would not let myself read more than a chapter a day, just because I was dreading getting to the end of it. I was enjoying it so much. All right, question 10. A book you still have questions about. Oh boy, if there is a book I have questions about, it is the Bible. So if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that I've been doing a reread of the Bible. I'm right in the middle of Numbers now. And if you've not read the Bible or not read the Bible in a long time, maybe you've forgotten just how many strange things there are that goes on here. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, half of Numbers. You would, if you've not come back to the Bible for a long time and you pick it up again, you would not believe how many questions there are. You're reading along, and just about on every page, there's something like, that doesn't make any sense. What's going on? Why would God do that? What is the meaning of this? Why did that character do this? The narration style is very sparse, and I believe that's by design. There's books written on the art of biblical narrative, but it just leaves so many questions while you read it. And when I was first going through Genesis, every time I got to some sort of passage that didn't make any sense, it seemed to be alluding to something, but I couldn't tell what it was alluding to, or it felt like there was like verses missing or something, or like it was only half a story. And I would search on the internet or go to an online Bible concordance and look up the various explanations for it, the online Bible commentaries. And I discovered very quickly that nobody really knows. Basically, every incomprehensible passage that you come across, or every passage that you come across, has like 50 different interpretations that people have proposed over the years. And there's all this theorizing and debating over what the original Hebrew means and stuff like that. And after a while, I just stopped trying to look stuff up. I mean, now when I get to something that doesn't make any sense, I thought, okay, I know if I'm going to look this up, it's just going to confuse me more with 50 different possible explanations of what this could mean. But yeah, when it comes to a book that raises questions, I can't think of anything better than the Bible for this answer. And then question 11, a trashy fave. I'm going to go with Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. So a little bit embarrassed to be seen reading it at my age, but a lot of fun. The whole series is a lot of fun, even though I do think the quality does seem to go down as the books go on. But even when they're not as sharply funny, they're still very entertaining to read. Just like pure sugar. Just so easy to read. Okay, so that's my list. I'm going to tag some people here. Jay Shea, who's at JZYSHZY. Kelsey Heckman, who I hope comes back and starts making videos again soon. William over at William's Library. Jim at Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading. And Mindy. Mindy, I know Dane already tagged you, but consider yourself double tagged now. No excuse not to do it. All right, thank you very much, BookTube, and see you next time.